What's up? You got your boy Dyreck, aka Native Shades, reminding you to like and subscribe. Because today we're going to be talking about the rules of production. Producer rules. Rules that been passed down through generation to generation to generation that some folks just have to follow. It's like if they're held hostage by these rules. And the thing is, these rules aren't really helpful. They're actually kind of hurtful. They actually kind of stop your production progress in a way. So here's an old school rule from like the early 2000s that folks would follow. That's you have to program your own drums. Like, you cannot use drum loops when making a beat. If you used the drum loop, that was known as cheating. Even if the beat was dope, if they found out that, oh yeah, all he did was just take a drum loop and just put it underneath there and just was good to go, they'll be like, okay, I guess you made a good beat, kinda. For you to get the ultimate credit, you would have to program the drum loop from scratch, meaning placing all your kicks, all your snares, all your hats. You would have to program it. If you use the drum loop, for them to give you props, you would have to throw in a bunch of effects on it, compress it, do this. You would have to show them that you went through work to make that drum loop. It's kind of like with rappers. The same thing exists. Like, in the day, you would not give a rapper credit if they didn't write their rhymes. Rappers had to write their lyrics. If they didn't write their lyrics, you wouldn't give them the position as top MC or dope MC. But now, rappers have teams of writers. Seriously, rappers have a whole squad of writers. You can even hear a writer's dialect in the rapper's verse. You know what I mean? The rapper will be rapping in English, then all of a sudden, out of the blue, will switch to Hindi. I'm telling you, rappers now don't care. As far as writers go, the more the merrier. Another producer rule was that you could not use a pre-made melody loop without doing something to it. Meaning that if you got Ableton Live and the first preset melody loop they got, you could not just grab it, put it on your beat, and, call it the sound of the culture and basically say, hey, it's done and I'm good to go. No, you would have to chop it up, rearrange it, reverse it, throw a bunch of effects on it. You had to do something to that melody loop for people to give you credit back in the early 2000s. I remember in the early 2000s, folks was saying Swiss Beats was stealing Casio sounds, making hits like Down Bottom with Juvenile and Drag On. Folks weren't really giving him credit for his production expertise because they were like, hey, you're just using these presets. Now, he did say in an interview that he did use presets, but it didn't come from any Casios. He said he was using the Chord Trinity, but still a lot of folks frowned upon it and looked at him like, hey, you're not really putting any creativity into this work. Another production rule back in like the early 2000s and even before that was that you did not tell anyone, and I mean anyone, who you sampled. Like, if you were a sampling producer, you didn't tell folks where you got your sample source from. I mean, seriously, artists could be in the studio, they just finished putting out a banger and everybody's vibing to it, and then, the record exec would come in the room and then he'd be like, hey, wow, that's a real nice hippity hop beat. Hey, who'd you guys sample? Jackson 5? And everybody in the studio would stop in unison, look at the record exec in unison, and leave the studio in unison. For real, you did not tell folks where you got your sample source from. It's so crazy. Even 30 years later, you got guys like DJ Premier When he's doing interviews, he'll put a book over the record or hide it from the interviewer and say, listen, you will not know who I'm sampling. But that was then, and this is now. And nowadays, a lot of the younger cats don't adhere to all those rules anymore. If they get a dope loop, they're just gonna take it and run with it. They're not gonna sit around saying, oh man, I can't use this thing. I gotta chop it, reverse it, flip it. Nah, they're just gonna take it and make their beat. And their beat will be on the radio that evening playing. So while you're over there adhering to all these rules you've given to yourself, the other producer is out there making thousands. But what's your opinion? Do you adhere to any old school production rules? Do you tell people your sample source? If you're creating a beat, do you have to create all your drums from scratch? Or can you use a loop? Let me know in the comments section. So this is your boy Dyreck, aka Native Shades, reminding you to like and subscribe. And I'm signing off.